Hello, Hauntflings. My name is Alyssa. This is my ghoulishly gorgeous wife and co-host, Lindsay. This is Macabatmidnight, where we rate all things on a scale starting with the adorably spooky and ending with the truly disturbing. I told you guys earlier this week that my dad's in town, so we're going to be talking about aliens, and I asked him to sit in on this one with us, so he is here.
Hello, everybody.
You can say hi to. You can say hi to.
Hi. Hi. And hi, everybody. That's what I meant by everybody.
Okay. So, on tonight's episode, we're going to be looking at alien greys, specifically. So, this will be fun. But before we get into that, I have a few things that I want to say. First, I want to apologize about our posting schedule.
It's not been great this week.
It's not been great. I am really trying to stick to it, but we haven't been home a lot, and it's kind of hard to edit podcasts when you're not at the computer, and it takes hours to edit them. And
I know we were late posting on Monday. We were late posting for Wednesday.
Yeah. Once everything is smoothed over, I told you all once before that I do want to record ahead once I'm out of these last 2 weeks of school, and that way our schedule will be a little more steady. We'll be able to post in advance.
Once we get everything settled, it will be Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just bear with us. We're not professionals. This is a hobby. We have no management.
I can verify that.
So, additionally, episode 10 is coming up really fast, and as soon as we... Oh, that's you? What was that?
It's my little celebration.
As soon as we get episode 10 up and posted, we're going to open some of our other social media pages. We're working on those right now, guys. I'm not going to give you dates because obviously I've done terribly with dates this week.
Yeah, we will be letting you know when those are up and running. We'll let you guys know when those are up and running so you can give them a follow.
Yep. Last but not least, again, as I mentioned, we are still working on sound. We were trying to get rid of the echo on my mic. Hopefully it doesn't come around in this episode when I'm editing it. We did some tests and it didn't sound like there was an echo. We'll figure it out, guys, eventually. One day. Maybe. We'll see. We have hopes. Oh, you guys are very, very
hopes and dreams.
Yeah, we have hopes.
So we are going to start. I'm going to read a clip from the Roswell crash. I was trying to find the original article.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, you can't find the original article.
That's pretty much scrubbed everywhere.
It's nowhere. It's nowhere. Roswell, if you guys don't know what that is, in 1947, there was a crash. The crash was some sort of saucer. It was in a guy's yard. And when the Air Force got to it, they told everybody that it was just a test craft. And that's what that is. This is from Britannica. It's just a little clip. It says, in 1947, the United States and other countries were in the midst of a flying saucer craze, as people reported seeing strange objects in the sky that they claimed were spacecraft piloted by aliens. It was against this background that a rancher, W.W. Mac Brazel, or Brazel, I don't know. Brazel discovered some unusual debris near Roswell, New Mexico in June. The material included tinfoil, rubber strips, and sticks. The following month, he took the items to the Roswell sheriff, so he waited a month. This alien crashed, and he waited a month to report it.
Maybe he just wasn't sure what to do with it.
Maybe. The sheriff, in turn, contacted the Roswell Army Airfield. After collecting the wreckage, the RAAF issued an extraordinary press release that stated that a flying disc had been retrieved from a local ranch. The Roswell Daily Record immediately picked up the press release, and on July 8th, the story was printed with the headline, RAAF Captures Flying Saucer on Ranch in Roswell Region. Also immediately, however, the military announced that the saucer had actually been a weather balloon carrying a radar target, a device somewhat like a box kite, made of foil paper fastened to a balsa wood frame. The Roswell Morning Dispatch noted the new claim on July 9th, 1947, with a story entitled, Army Debunks Roswell Flying Disc as World Simmers with Excitement. However, the article also included an interview with Brazel, who did not believe that the debris he discovered was from a weather balloon.
So they wanted to quiet him, essentially, from being like, yeah, aliens.
Aliens.
Mine says that the aliens crashed and were looking for a jump start on the side of the road.
Okay, they just needed you to hook up to them. I don't think we have those kind of vehicles, though. Give them that kind of jump start.
Definitely not in the 40s.
It starts with in the annals of American UFO history.
Is that how it
starts? So, go figure what kind of information I'm going to get off of that site.
Oh my god.
I did not know that the Roswell incident was in someone's yard.
Yeah, it was in Brazel's yard, and that...
I didn't know it was in someone's yard either. I always thought it was like... I always pictured it being out in the middle of the desert somewhere.
That's where I pictured it being. Like, out in the middle of nowhere. But I was trying to find information on, like, if he saw, like, an alien or something in there, because everyone says that the Roswell alien was a gray.
Yeah, there are rumors that they did find 2 bodies on board the Roswell ship, but they were taken back to Area 51.
It was 2 dead bodies, and we found 2 dead bodies and one that was barely alive, but he died later. It died later?
And that's the thing is I couldn't find anything online. Maybe I was just looking in the wrong places. But
and I'm sure sources change.
Yeah. There are different types of grays, and there are different... That's my dog.
That's one of them.
There are different types of grays. They have different names. One of the names is the Roswell Grays. They're also called the Zeta Reticulans because they're believed to be from a binary star system in the constellation of Reticulum.
I didn't know that was that specific.
Yeah. I don't know how we know where they're from.
In the constellation Reticulum?
Yes.
I just wonder if they just picked one, was like, yep, that's the one.
I don't know. But that's where they're from. So we know the Greys to have large heads with thin pointed chins. They have large shining black eyes. They have small mouths, and they seem to have no noses. Generally, they're unusually tall and thin with long arms and legs.
Really does sound like you just described our dog.
I know. It sounds just like Gypsy. That's what I thought when I was describing it. I was like, that sounds like Gypsy.
Yeah.
And, of course, they have gray skin. They're the most common report, like, as far as, like, types of aliens. They're the most commonly reported type. It's like 43% of alien reports are grays, and it's usually by government whistleblowers and abductees.
Oh, I don't like that.
And people refer to them as little green men, even though they're called grays.
Yeah. So,
they're also tall and thin.
Well, so if you remember Lisa Frank. I don't know.
No, I don't know Lisa Frank.
Okay, so we had these folders when we were growing up.
They're talking about the colorful.
Yeah, like the bright, colorful rainbow, and there were aliens in one of them, and they looked like grays, but they were little and green. I don't know where that comes from, like a story in Kentucky about little green men. So there was a farm in Kentucky. Kentucky is supposedly a place where there's a lot of alien sightings.
Really?
Right.
Are you falling asleep?
No, I'm listening.
Okay.
No, my TV in my head is kicking on.
It's the aliens.
Okay. Where's my foil hat?
But, so these little green men in Kentucky, basically, there were these people and they lived in like a cabin out there with a family. I don't have the exact story, so please don't jump on me if this isn't like exact. But basically, they looked outside and there were all these little green men outside, like knocking on their windows, and the family was like shooting out the windows and stuff.
Sounds like signs.
Yeah. Basically, both little green men. That's when that term was coined. But yeah, so that's the basic description of the Greys. There are supposedly 3 different types of Greys. I took some descriptions from an interview with John Velez, who claimed to have been abducted. Velez's words are, I've seen 3 different types. There are the small gray ones. They're about 3 to 3.5 feet tall. They have an upside-down pear-shaped head with a pointy chin, large black eyes that wrap around the sides of their head, and very thin bodies, arms like Gumbies. And
oh God, my kids are aliens.
Wow, there's an alien. He had a Gumby costume. They look like rubbery things. They don't have joints like we have. They're just very, very thin. There's another group. They are smaller, maybe about 2 feet tall, and they wear these burlappy, very rough fabric robes. They have bluish or purplish skin. It's very dark. And then there's the taller version of the gray variety that I described with the big eyes. They're usually the ones that are involved in the medical procedures, or if there's any communicating that needs to be done, they are the ones that do it.
So it's like Invader Zim had it, right? Like, they have the tallest.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Invader Zim kind of looks like a gray, now that I'm thinking
except they're green.
Well, okay, but so are the Lisa Frank aliens.
Well, that's fair.
Aliens.
When asked to describe the craft itself, Valles said, I've had one awake close-up visual sighting back in 1978 where I saw light. It was just a huge, formless football shape. There was no craft visible within this light. It was just moving very slowly over the top of a building that was maybe, the craft must have been 60 to 80 feet away from me. Again, it moved very slowly before it disappeared behind the roof line. Later, during regression, I remembered seeing the actual craft, and it was a classic saucer-shaped silver metallic disc with a hump on the top. There's a very bright red floating light on top and a green light on the bottom. I've also seen triangular-shaped crafts, a huge black triangular-shaped craft, and I've also seen a large round ball of orange light. I don't know what's inside the light, but I've seen a huge ball of orange light. Those are the crafts I remember seeing throughout the regression. As he's asked further questions, he goes on to describe the abduction process, implants, and procedures. He talks about how these entities can walk through walls and doors, which... he's
No!
I've heard of abductees saying that when they're abducted, they'll, like, go through the wall. Have you ever heard that?
No.
Yeah, like, they'll be in their bed, and they'll just lift up, like, a plank and, like, float through the wall, because people ask them, like, well, how do they even get you out of the house? They just float through the wall.
That's,
Yeah. I don't know. I was listening to another podcast. I will put the name of it in the link. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I'll put the name in our notes. And it took a more scientific approach when looking at the Greys as far as, like, why they look the way that they do. It suggested that these aliens may be from an environment that have low UV, which is why their skin is gray. That their large eyes might mean that they actually come from a dark environment, which is why, like, you think of your pupils and the rods and cones in your eyes and how they adjust to light and dark.
yeah, if you think about it, some nocturnal animals actually do have larger eyes to take in more light.
Yeah, like owls and
Owls.
cats, their eyes will, like, get larger in
Or
the dark.
even bats. Like, I know they use sonar, but their eyes are larger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's the pupil, the dark part of your eye, gets bigger when it's dark. It opens up so you can see better. And they have these, like, giant black bulbous eyeballs.
Right.
So they don't have incandescent light on their spaceship?
I don't know. I've never been on an alien spaceship.
All the movies got it wrong. It's not bright lights. That would be harmful to their large eyes,
Right.
wouldn't it?
That makes sense. And the guy who was talking about it, I'm not sure, but I think it was kind of sounding like he has a degree in biology, or he studied biology, you know? But also aliens, if they're from a different planet, like, who knows if they're from a different planet. But aliens, if they're from a place where, like, maybe, like, the science and the physics is different, I don't know. Science and physics is what it is here. It's, like, set in stone, but we don't know everything, you know?
Just physics in another universe or somewhere else might work completely different.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Well, then you know something that we don't.
Right.
Haven't even stumbled upon yet.
Yeah, they also mentioned if you look at general depictions of their hands, their fingers are frog-like. Like, they have those suction-y looking fingers, which suggests that they might actually be amphibious. They might have, like, water on their planet. See, yeah, even in my notes here I said, but spaceships are bright, right? So,
Yeah.
Then they talked about the mouths and how small their mouths are, which suggests they don't actually need to eat much because their mouths are small, so they wouldn't open up very wide. You have to open your mouth to be able to put food in your mouth.
Right.
So they suggested that either they take, like, little, like, nutrient-packed, I don't know, beans. I don't know.
Beans or something.
Yeah, just, like, something small, because alien food. Yeah.
Alien niblets.
Alien niblets.
Oh my gosh.
Like nuggets, but they're like alien.
Okay.
They're smaller.
They also suggested that because they are thin, there is a lack of gravity wherever they're from. Because you think about it, you need some muscle to move because of gravity. If there's less gravity, you're not going to need to...
And because they use their brains more, they're not using as much muscle to get things done.
Okay.
Muscle head.
Muscle head, yeah. So that was kind of their thought. They went like way, way far into it. It was like 2 hours of podcast. So again, I'll post that so you guys can listen to it.
Is that all you got on it?
On their physical aspect?
Because I've heard talks about, the reason their brain's so big is because they're muscle heads.
Because they're like...
They have the telepathy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that everything is done through like telekinesis and like telepathy.
Well, I actually get into that down here. So the guy from the interview who was saying that he had been abducted was talking about how they do talk to you with telepathy. He said, but they get really close to your face when they're talking to you. And it's not telepathy in the way that you would think it is. You know, like you'd think it's like words being sent to your mind. He said it's just like you have the feelings and the visual. And like you're looking into their eyes and like you can see it. But I don't know. That's the only way that I've heard of it being described like that way. So, I don't know. But I do get into that. Greys, despite Roswell being, you know, like the big crash or the big alien crash.
Yeah.
Greys actually really kind of blew up and became a thing in the 60s when Betty and Barney Hill claimed to have been abducted. That is one of the most famous alien gray abductions.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah. When Barney was put under hypnosis on the matter, he was left blubbering and screaming.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like they couldn't understand what he was saying.
Blubbering Barney.
Yeah. And eventually he explained to his psychiatrist that he and his wife had been abducted by what they called gray men with large bulbous eyes, and that they had been medically examined by these men. This story is widely criticized, but again, it was a pivotal point for these Greys. And, you know, you hear a lot about people who have been abducted going under hypnosis and...
like going catatonic, essentially.
Yeah. Like, they're not really, like, able to answer the questions and things that are being asked. They're just kind of crying out, you know, screaming out. So that was, like, the big one. There are some ideas that suggest that these creatures are not aliens. Some people...
What would they be?
Well, I got a few theories for you.
Chickens?
Yeah. You know, have you ever seen a naked chicken?
A tall, thin...
chicken.
10-foot
like
chicken.
An owl. It was an owl.
Oh, right, yeah. I forgot about the owl that lives in the mountains.
Right.
And wears bucket hats.
It looks like a person and then all of a sudden changes to an owl or whatever it looks like.
The Flatwoods Monster.
Some weird looking thing.
Yeah, so our last episode was done on the Flatwoods Monster, which was also an alien.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, well, the Air Force tried to say it was an owl, but it was 10 feet tall.
And it wore a bucket.
It wore
a bucket dress.
Yeah,
it's a big owl.
Right.
Yeah,
a big owl.
Who are you? All right, that was bad.
So some people think that they are demons. The reason that they think this is because in the 60s, whenever all of these reported abductions were going on, there was another type of alien that was coming down. And these ones were benevolent. They were called the Nordic aliens, and they were trying to, like, help people reach spiritual enlightenment. One thing that is reported whenever people are abducted by Greys also is that they smell like sulfur.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, that's a common report.
A Nordic alien.
I know, I thought like Vikings. The smell of sulfur is often something that abductees report with these Greys. Another theory is that aliens are just modern depictions of the ancient fairies.
What?
Well, so you think of the ancient fairies and the way that they're described. They're often described as terrifying creatures who abduct people. They take them away.
I mean, yeah, I guess I could see that.
And...
so they're like giant fairies now?
I guess. Well, so fairies aren't...
aren't fairies traditionally tiny?
No.
There are different types of fae.
There are different types of fae. There's like
a big fairy?
There's all fairies. were generally terrifying creatures. Like, they weren't like pop culture and like the modern world has turned them into like these pretty little, but they're not. They were terrifying creatures. You know, the Celts and people in Europe. You wanted to stay away from the fairies. You wanted to stay away from fairy circles,
or appease them,
to keep them away. So
fairy doesn't sound intimidating. Frickin' fairy.
Frickin' fairy. But like the changelings, you know about changelings? Yeah. Changelings are
sort of.
Well, you know, they take your child, they replace your child with a changeling. That's a fairy. That's a type of fairy. So
yeah, and that's how we get politicians.
Yeah. That's exactly how that works. Yeah, but they think that maybe like aliens are fairies, just a modern take on fairies. Additionally,
I guess that would like fit in if you said something about politicians. I'm just thinking like people joke about how politicians are reptilians. I'm just like, that could be a changeling.
That could be a changeling. To be fair, changelings and reptilians are technically like the same thing. So that's funny. Lindsay's got her over there putting pieces together now.
Good job. Good work.
But in ancient times, I'm sure you guys have seen the History Channel's Ancient Aliens.
Yes.
With the aliens guy.
The ancient ones?
The ancient ones. Yeah. They talk about the old paintings and carvings in the walls and how
they built these magnificent structures.
No, but
that is on there.
That is on there.
Documentaries that they had alien help to build those.
Well, but they do have, so historians, like if we're staying grounded in reality here, historians do have ways that, okay, like they would use these methods to move these giant rocks or whatever. Okay. But there are like airplanes in those pictures.
Helicopters.
Yeah, there's like flying craft.
What are they called? The ancient aliens,
the Anunnaki or something.
Like that,
yeah. So like they have these pictures, and they also have these entities which are gods, but the gods look like Greys or the Nordic gods. Like a lot of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's uncomfy.
That's uncomfy. Gods, demons, fairies, politicians. Uncomfy. So we're back to reptilians here. With the Greys, most reports say that the Greys are dark. They're not good. It was actually really hard to find information on the Greys, you guys. Like
that's because of the Greys. They're here.
They're hiding.
They're watching you.
Yeah, it was really hard. Like I kept getting like a lot of the same. It was like a video, but it was the same video like over and over again. And the original post was on PBS. It was really hard to find information, so my notes are kind of scattered about because I was like trying to piece it together, really. But people don't really know if they're good or bad. Most reports are that they're malevolent, but
they just want to capture you for science.
Yeah, for science.
Curious creature.
For science reasons.
Well, some people think that they work with the reptilians. Some people think that they work with the Nordic aliens. I don't know.
Well, maybe they're like us and they do whatever the heck they want.
Well, that's another thing is there's a theory that they are just evolved humans.
I don't know if I like that theory at all.
There's a theory that they're just evolved humans. And it's funny because when I was in elementary school, we were actually taught that like humans in the future would be like really tall and skinny and they would have really big heads.
Bigger brains, right.
Yeah, but
we know that's going backwards.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so they may be evolved humans.
Humans might look like more like they do in WALL-E than they do as the Greys.
Or like, I feel like we're going back to Neanderthal.
Yeah.
I keep losing my spot. Sorry, guys.
Aliens.
So these creatures are considered to be emotionally evolved because they don't seem to care, but not in the same way that humans don't care. They don't have...
They're emotionally distant. Just
they're like...
advanced where they understand.
No empathy.
Yeah, they have no empathy. They just want to poke and prod and do science. Generally, they don't really have gender. They have nothing to show that they're able to reproduce. So some people think that these abductors...
So they don't have alien niblets?
They don't have alien niblets. They eat alien nuggets and they don't have alien niblets.
Yeah.
But, so humans theorize that the reason that we're getting abducted, and by we, I don't mean me, because I don't want to get abducted. But the reason that they are getting abducted is for reproduction purposes, because a lot of these medical exams are generally of that nature.
So they're taking their DNA and putting it in
test tubes,
reproductive systems, or
not even that.
Taking their eggs.
Yeah, like they're taking they're taking eggs and spermies and they're sticking them in these, allegedly, in these test tubes. That's what one guy says.
So, adding their DNA?
Yeah, because they're unable to reproduce themselves. So they are doing like artificial reproduction to keep their race going. And they've been living in this symbiotic relationship with humans since ancient
symbiotic
times.
For who?
Them.
No, that would be parasitic.
Okay.
Who's it benefiting? How's it benefiting the person?
Who's eating off of who? They're not eating off of us.
Well, if our government's in cahoots with them, it's benefiting our
That's true.
I mean, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah. And we're just cattle.
Whenever the government came out in like last year and they like admitted that there were aliens or whatever, and it was like a whole big thing because it wasn't a hoax, it wasn't just some YouTube thing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
She could not remember that. Like, I was asking her about it earlier, she doesn't remember that.
Nope.
Like, I remember telling, I don't remember how old you were, but I remember telling your mom, no, they're gonna, in 10 years, everybody's gonna know that there's aliens and, or UFOs.
Yeah.
I might have said aliens, but that was like 30 years ago.
Well,
so I was off by 20 years. But yeah, I got it right. I knew it was going to happen.
Well, and I were talking, and he told me, they've run tests on like smaller areas and told them that aliens exist to like see how the public would react. Right. And like he's told me, like they're not worried about how the public's going to react because we've all just been waiting anyway. Like everybody,
we're all numb to it, and they gave us so much other to worry about. Nobody cares. Everybody's like, alien, whatever. I gotta go down to the bank and get some money for my new freaking shoes or something.
Yeah. But Lindsay's over there like, wow, y'all really are like caught up in this alien stuff. She's just watching. But yeah.
She's watching because she's studying us.
You're an alien.
I'm secretly a gray. I didn't know if you knew that.
That's why you have big eyeballs.
Secret's out. Now I have to wipe your memory and disappear.
Yeah, okay.
I'll fly through the walls.
That is one thing. The Men in Black, the guy who wrote the original book, I don't know his name, but some conspiracy theorist out there is like, I know what guy you're talking about. The guy who wrote the book has said, and he actually said this in the last episode whenever he was studying the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
He actually said that he made the Men in Black up. They're not real.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows if the Men in Black are making him say that. I don't believe that, but I'm saying it for the, But, yeah. So he said that he made the Men in Black up, that they're not real. However, people who have been abducted also say that they are followed around by black helicopters and black vehicles.
By the Men in Black.
By the Men in Black, yeah. Apparently they'll get threats. I wish I had written the names down. Again, it's information I'll put in the notes, but there were... It might have been Betty and Barney.
Are you sure you don't want the Men in Black to show up at your door?
No, they don't need to. I'm not going to delve any further than this podcast.
It's the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, it's the Blues Brothers. But they were like, this couple was sending mail back and forth after being abducted, and their mail was always open and like sealed back shut with tape. So, they're very hands-on. Whoever, whether it's the Men in Black or the government or whatever. People who are abducted are followed by someone. Most abductions happen when people are in bed or in their car. Generally, they are dreaming of bright lights and being carried into a ship. While they're on the ship, again, they're undergoing medical examinations. And usually people aren't only abducted one time. This is usually something that starts when they're very young and goes out through either like a period of years or for the rest of their lives.
It's like being studied, like you're a study project.
Or
an experiment of some sort.
Or a reproductive
experiment?
No.
So the tall ones are the ones who do all the
tall ones
experiment.
And the talking. They're the smart guys. They're running everything. Yeah, those are the tall, skinny ones. Those are I don't know what all these little ones are for. I guess they're just driving the spaceship. I don't know.
They're the brawn. They do all the hard work.
I think seeing a little one would be creepier than seeing a tall one.
I don't know.
I don't want to see either of them.
Me neither.
Personally.
Me neither.
Did you guys see the Las Vegas one?
No.
No? At all?
No.
I've got something to show you. They got video of these things hiding in their tractors. There was a light that came down, and several people reported it, and even a cop saw it. And the cop goes to a call, which was about an hour after he saw the light, and these people are telling him how, no, these things came down. They were in our yard. They were in the tractor right there. We've got video of it. And the cop's like, I saw the light.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything added up, and they were creeping the cop out. The cop's like, don't be telling me that stuff. I'll leave.
The cop's like, I'm leaving. I quit.
Showed video of it. That's pretty like
disturbing.
Universal Studios-ish.
Oh.
Almost.
Oh, I hate that. When was this? How long ago was that?
About a year ago.
Oh,
Las
no.
Vegas. Look it up.
I'm gonna look it up as soon as we're done here, and I'm gonna post the link in our thing. I got a lot of stuff to post in our notes that I hate. Was it a gray?
I believe they were grays.
Oh.
You can see their eyes. You know, it's like Bigfooty also, you know.
Yeah.
Always got the grainy thing that
Yeah.
you can't see. But there's one that they don't show in some of the videos that if you look at the bottom right side of the fence, you can see something there, and then it leaves.
So, with, like, the grainy videos and stuff, I would say with aliens, to me, that makes sense. Because I feel like if their technology is as far, like, advanced as we assume it is, they could probably, like, do interference and stuff.
Distorts
Like
it.
turning on my microwave with the Wi-Fi going.
Yeah. Did that happen?
Every time we turn on our microwave, the Wi-Fi stops working.
Oh. Well, that's inconvenient.
Ooh, you need to keep your foil around. There is actually an alien awareness abduction group called Starborn.
Thank God.
I know. You need it. The people in it are not they're not known to, like, be on drugs. They don't drink. These aren't people who struggle with addiction. Two of the people in this group, you might have heard of them. I've heard of them. They're a pair of twins. Their names are Audrey and Debbie. They say that they have struggled with abduction their entire lives. The abductions, again, started when they were very young. Not knowing what they were encountering, they were calling these guys bald men. And according to ABC, Audrey says, and this is a direct quote from her, I was probably about 5 years old. A bright blue light would come into the room, and the door would open. And there would be like a foggy, kind of misty blue light just shining through the whole house. She said that these two figures would come in. There was a tall one. They had black capes. They were bald, and they had big eyes. Sometimes they were together on the abductions. They had been up in the crafts, and they had seen their house from above. They realized that these creatures were not from here. They were good English. They were very good at mind erasing, or whatever you want to call it, she says. They will leave you with bits and pieces of things that you can remember. So we do remember certain things of being together. Now, that's another thing, is they are apparently good at mind control and, like, wiping your mind. A former U.S. Marine, Terrell Copeland, he's also part of the group. He said that it was just an orb of light that he saw. It wasn't moving. It was just a giant white ball of light that was moving. There was another one that was directly across the street from it, about 300 feet above the ground. It was changing colors rapidly. I've actually seen videos of lights like that. I don't know.
So have I. I've seen those videos.
Like the rapidly changing lights in the sky. Have you seen those?
I'm trying to think if you're talking about like the ball of light that zaps across the railroad track and moves real fast.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, those were panned out to be a fraud, but
no, these
looks cool.
These are like up in the sky, and there's like different accounts of these sorts of lights, and they're usually like they'll separate and they'll come back together, and they're like several colors. Yeah. But he says this is not usual. Something's wrong here. He thought to himself, maybe I'm over my head. I'm not supposed to be looking at this stuff. He woke up from a nap by the sound of someone trying to enter his apartment, and he said, who is it? There was no answer. And he said he could just see, like, the doorknob moving and scratching on the window. So my only thing with that is they can walk through walls. Allegedly.
That sounds like something straight out of a horror movie.
That makes me think of, is it in Dark Skies? When the door, is that the movie? Like, the door is, like, jiggling. You don't
That's
remember?
Every freaking movie I've seen.
I don't remember. Like
Dark Skies is where they like move almost invisibly through the cameras and like because the guy's watching them and like the cameras mess up as they move from room to room.
It's been a while since I've seen Dark Skies.
So yeah, he said that he was in a complete paralysis. The only thing that he could move were his eyes, and he heard a voice through the door say, "You don't need the weapon, we won't harm you," because he keeps a firearm. Then he recalls that he was missing time. For 2 nights, he was missing about 4 hours, and not as a result of sleep. I've heard that sleep paralysis happens a lot, or that like people like freeze up, they can't move. I have also heard that time goes missing, and when the sun blacked out for me and Lindsay, I remember being like, we need to check the clock. What if we got abducted? But yeah, I've heard of large amounts of time missing.
Large amounts, right?
Yeah.
Not just like a minute or two.
Right. People will be in one spot, they'll see the lights or whatever, and then they'll like wake up almost in that spot again. So yeah, that's what I found on Grace. I had to, like I said, pull and kind of stitch together my notes. Lindsay has never had an encounter with an alien.
I have not.
Or a UFO.
Nope.
The first time my dad described a UFO to me, he said it's an unidentified flying object, which means if you see a hot dog flying through the sky and you don't know what it is, that means it's a UFO. That was his description of a UFO.
Because hot dogs fly frequently. And
Yeah.
You don't know it.
Right. So, you've got a couple of UFO stories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to hear your UFO story again.
Then I'll tell it to you. But, caveat. Pre-caveat. Neil deGrasse Tyson says that he says a UFO is what it is, unidentified flying object.
Mhm.
So, until you know what it is, you can't be saying that it's extraterrestrial
Right.
life or anything like that. One of my stories, which is a true story, is one of them around the moon, which to me is non-terrestrial, extraterrestrial.
Mhm.
So that tells me there's something other than just terrestrial, unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's non-terrestrial, unidentified flying objects. So, extraterrestrial. So, but the first time, and I actually pieced these two pieces together, these two stories, later, years later, decades later. But the first story, I was when I was about 10 years old, maybe even younger than that. And I was running up through the hills, and there was me and 2 other guys, other kids. And we ran up to chase another kid who was up there acting like a goofball, and like, oh, let's go get the wild boy. And so, we're running up the side of this mountain that's in the desert, so there's bushes and rocks everywhere.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but this is in Nevada, which there are a lot of UFO sightings in Nevada, too. So This happened in Nevada.
Yeah. In Nevada, in the area in Nevada we were at, isn't the weedy, thin, deserty looking thing.
Yeah.
It's desert, but it's pretty plush with sagebrush and rocks.
Yeah.
So we're going to the side of this hill, and we get up to this place called Flat Rock, is what we called it, and just playing around, being kids. And so, this is kind of how the story ends, but I turn around, and the other kid standing, we couldn't find the other kid that we were looking for, the wild boy, It was just another kid playing around, but, we look over, and in the saddle of the mountains, I could see a moon, about the size of a hot air balloon, I'd say. Had to be bigger than that. Perfectly round. It was like the moon. It was incandescent, so you could see through it, kind of like you do when you see a full moon in the middle of the afternoon.
Like a blue moon?
Well, not a blue moon. Blue moon is the second full moon of the month. But yeah, I guess if I'm interpreting what you're saying right.
You are.
But yeah, it's like you could look at it and see through it, and it was coming down nice and slow. And it came down and went behind the mountain where I had to run from. I'm like, what is that? And I had to go after it, see what it is. And I knew where it landed. There was a sand pit on the other side by a cave. And that's where it went down at. And you had to run basically around the mountain or the hill. And I'd say my run would have been about 3/4 of a mile. And I was, like I said, 10 years old, so I was moving. And I also like to run, okay? But it might have been longer now. I don't know. But once I got to the point where I could say I didn't make it that full 3/4 of the mile, but I got to the point where I could see the sand pit. And there was nothing there. It was gone.
He sees a UFO and he runs to it, not away.
Yeah.
Not away.
And it landed nice and slow, so it was interesting to watch it. The moon land in the middle of the desert.
Yes, that's
an incandescent moon. And this next story, I'm jumping right to the next story for a reason, but Alyssa was there, and I barely remember you there because I was caught up in the moment. But
I remember being there.
I know, because you told me that what I said before I even told you. So, but I was home from work, and I had this telescope, and it wasn't even a great telescope, but it wasn't a bad telescope. You could look at the moon. It was a Tascam, and I'm looking up at the moon, and it's a daylight moon, full moon, and it was I think it was about 4 in the afternoon, something like that. It was after work, so I'm looking up at the moon, and I had the Barlow lens in, and this silver orb shoots around in front of the moon, and then shoots around the moon, and then it went the other way around the moon. I can't tell you the direction. I can't remember if it was left, right, left, right. And it did a few times. I'm like, what is that? There's a silver orb moving around the moon. And I'm just watching this thing, and then boom, it was gone. I mean, it just disappeared, and it seems like it shot off into space or something.
You said it circled the moon really fast, right? Like the whole moon real fast.
It was going around the moon.
Wow.
Right around like the equator of the moon.
Yeah.
And did it 2 or 3 times before it took off into wherever it went. Just a shiny silver orb.
Almost like it was collecting momentum to go somewhere farther away.
Collecting gravity or something. To shoot up. Yeah.
See, that's the best way to travel in space is to circle. To get momentum from the gravity of the object and then propel yourself forward.
But it changed directions, though. Maybe it was, I don't know.
It's also interesting because the moon doesn't really have its own gravity, so...
Yeah. I don't know how they fly either, so... But I have my theories. But this means that it was a silver orb, and it was flying around the moon, and the moon that I had seen when I was younger, it took me like 20 years to come up with this theory. But maybe that was a silver orb, and it was just reflecting, holding the image of the moon around the silver orb. So, I mean, it could have came down and looked like anything it wanted to.
Like a cloaking thing. I've heard that, like, the ships will, like, cloak, and sometimes they'll look like that, kind of like, you'll see them in the sky, but almost not really, because they're cloaking themselves.
Yeah, it could look like a bunch of clouds, or it could look like the Earth itself, or it could look like the moon, I mean, and then it was invisible all of a sudden. It probably was sitting right there. I probably looked right at it. Yeah. And being that I saw that, like they talk about ships being made and copied in the Air Force down in Nellis, or not Nellis, Area 51. Mm-hmm. They were reverse engineering their stuff, but I don't think we were there yet. If they cloak and brought the moon down here, I could put that together. And there was a story years before, I'd say a year or 2 before that there was a giant moon that floated over Lemon Valley, which is the exact same spot. And it was in the newspaper and everything.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You can look up the newspaper. If I can find out what year it was, it's probably in the history of the newspaper.
Huh. That's crazy.
I think that those were related.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Well, you grew up in Lemon Valley, right?
I just grew up in Lemon Valley. Well, I never grew up, but yes, I was raised in Lemon Valley.
They say that people who have experiences will have repeated experiences, too.
Yeah.
So, and they also say that the type of people who are usually more prone to these experiences are people who are either into the like involved in the occult or very like spiritual or open-minded. So like you're not gonna find too many people who are like really, I guess not like open-minded. I don't even know, because there are a lot of scientists and things that have stuff to say about it too, but you have to be open-minded in some way, you know.
Right.
And
yeah,
it's something.
It's a something.
What do you think?
Don't delete that part.
Don't delete.
I don't know what to think. I think it's spooky for sure.
Lindsay doesn't look at the sky very often.
I do at night. I like looking at the stars, but like, cause I like stars and like space and like that sort of thing, you know.
You just haven't seen anything.
I
You know what?
remember, but before you get into it, pause again. I forgot where I went.
See, we have to keep getting into stuff because you keep forgetting.
I do. My brain's been wiped.
The aliens.
Oh.
But I'll tell people that story, and like, she even thinks that's my wife, but she thinks that I was hallucinating. Oh, you were just hallucinating. I'm like,
no.
I was stone cold sober. I was freaking, when I was a kid, I was young. Sure, imagination's crazy, but no.
But you know when you see something. That sucks.
You know.
Because, like, I feel like a lot of people tend to just credit children because they're children. You know, like that one that we were listening to in the car the other day. They were like, he was a 5-year-old. 5-year-olds have big imaginations. His story was a little wild, but, you know. Like, I think
you were there to verify my other one.
Yeah.
Well, at least what I was seeing. I could have been lying to you and still am, but I'm not.
No, because you weren't paying attention to me. You were really, like, looking in the telescope. I remember, like, he was really focused on the telescope. What is that? Trying to get his attention. So.
I have a really nice telescope, man. Can't wait to see it again.
You can go find your moon.
I need to record all of it. I searched up orbs around the moon and things like that, and I found a couple things, but that were close.
Yeah.
But I haven't found anything like that.
Yeah.
Like the silver orb zipping around the moon and taking off. I've seen things about orbs on the moon and stations on the moon and things like that, like slow-moving orbs and stuff, but nothing like what I saw.
Yeah.
They could have been the same thing, just not doing the same thing.
Yeah. That was crazy. When the sun blacked out for Lindsay and I.
Oh, God.
I found something one time and it just went black. And then it blinked back on. And she just kept talking and I was like...
I've heard of that happening to someone before, though. Then I heard you say it.
Oh.
I was like, I've heard that before.
Oh, no, I don't know.
I
asked her. I said,
heard anyone else.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone else. I found it one time online, but I asked her if she saw it. She just kept talking. She goes, yeah. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and end it there. I hope you guys enjoyed my dad's visit with us here on Macabre at Midnight. And I hope you enjoyed what we had to say here. If you have had any encounters with aliens or UFOs, then we would love to hear about them. If you hang tight, I will give you the email for that in just a second. If you enjoyed this episode of Macabre at Midnight and you like spooky things, then you can catch us on Amazon Music, Apple Music, Audible, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, and more. You can also help us out by rating and subscribing. We are always looking to improve, and we want to hear what you guys have to say. You can also follow us on Instagram for regular updates and episode teasers, as well as other information at macabre_at_midnight_podcast. And if you want to hear us talk about something that fits on the scale of screams, or you have an experience or short work of your own horror fiction that you'd like us to share in our new listener library, then just email us at macabre@midnight@outlook.com. Remember to lock your doors, sprinkle a little salt, check under your bed, stay spooky, and we will see you in your nightmares.